Hey everyone, in today's video we're going to be creating the review section for the property details screen. This will be the last section of this screen, so let's get started. First thing I need to do is go into my types and make sure that I have the review type. So make sure that you have this in your types. If you don't, just go ahead and create it. And then we're going to go to our property type. And here where we have reviews, we're just going to make this optional and we'll save this. Now let's go back into our properties here. And we are going to give each and every property its own reviews and its own stars. And if it doesn't have any reviews, then we will just give it 0 stars. So here is the end result of that. For this first one, we're just going to give it a stars rating of 4.2. And then we gave it 4 different reviews here. And then down for the second one, we gave it a stars rating of 3.5 with 2 different reviews. This third one doesn't have any reviews, so it's 0 stars. The fourth one got a 1-star review, so we'll give it a 1 star. And then this last one has 1.5 stars and we gave it 2 reviews. So with our stars and reviews field added, let's go ahead and create our review section. So go into your components, go to this property details sections, and just create your review section. And just like all of these other sections, this is going to be exported as a constant. And it's going to take in a property. Which is going to be of the type property. And we'll just return a fragment here. Now let's go back to our property details screen and add a divider underneath our location section. Then we'll add in our review section here, making the property equal to item. And underneath that, we'll display another divider. Now here within our review section, let's add some imports. And those are going to be flat list, style sheet, text, and button. Now let's create our styles, and then we'll create a text component. It'll say reviews and have a category of H5 and a style of default margin vertical, which is just a margin vertical of 10. And beneath this, we'll display a button which says write a review. And for the on press event, it will just say navigate to the review screen, and the style is going to be default margin vertical. Now, if the property has reviews, we'd like to display some different cards showing the overall score for the property based upon those reviews and the reviews themselves. So here, between text and button, we'll say property.reviews, ? Else, null. And then here, we'll just render a fragment for now. Now, the first thing that we'll want to render in this fragment is going to be something called an overall review scorecard. So let's create that component. And here we will just export this, export const overall review scorecard. And we'll just return some fragments right now and add this to the review section. So overall review scorecard. Now within this, let's add our imports. And those are going to be view, style sheet, view style, and text. And locally we'll import row and theme. And it looks like I need to add this outside of my property details section. So that should work now. And let's just go and update this. And this component is going to take in a score, number of reviews, and style. And the style is going to be an optional view style or view style array. Number of reviews will be a number, and the score will be a number as well. So now let's create our styles. And then we need to create some functions for the number of reviews and the score. So this first one is going to be called getRenterReviewText. And based upon the number of reviews, we will either return an empty string or the number followed by renter reviews. And our next function is going to be called getScoreText, and based upon the score that's passed in, it will either return great, good, average, below average, no reviews yet, or bad. And within our return statement here, we'd like to return a view with the style of container and the passed in style. And container is just going to have a padding of 12, border radius of 5, border width of 1, theme of color-gray for the border color, and a width of 100%. And then we'll render out a row which has the styles of row and small margin vertical. And row is just going to have justify content to space between and align items to center. And small margin vertical has a margin vertical of 5. Now within this row we'll display some text, and we will call getScoreText passing in score, and that will have a style of score text which just has a color of color-primary 500. And beneath that row we will render out another row, and in this row we will display some text with the score followed by the words blended score, and underneath that text we will just have the score. Now underneath that row, we will have another row with the styles of row and small margin vertical, and in that it will have some text getting the renter review text. And if the number of reviews is equal to 0, then we'll display nothing. Otherwise, we will display some text saying out of 5. Now we should go back to our review section and then fill out these props. So here the number of reviews is going to be equal to property dot reviews question mark, and then if that exists then we'll say property dot reviews dot length, else it will just be 0. And here we need to say else, and here for the score that needs to be equal to property.stars. And we are going to give this card a style of default margin vertical. Now one thing that we're missing on our overall review scorecard is some stars here in the top right of the card. So we are going to add those and make this look a little bit better. So let's create a new component here called stars. And for this we will import view style, material, community icons, row, and theme. And then we are going to export our component here. It's going to take in a score and style. Score is going to be a number and style will be an optional view style. And for the return statement, we are going to return a row passing in the style here. So within this row, we will map through 5 different values. And we need to get the decimal value of the passed in score and the whole number value. So if it's like 4.5, then this decimal value would be the 0.5, whereas this compare score would be the 4. And then if the score divided by the item is greater than 1, we'd like to return a material community icon with the name of star. And this is going to represent the whole star. So in my example, I was using 4.5. So for the first 4, it would be this. And then in a case where it's like the 0.5, then we would like to render out a material community icon which has the star half full. So that's what we'll do here. And if the decimal is less than 0.5, we will just render out a star outline. So if it was like 4.25, really we would just render out these 4 full stars and then 1 star outline. So let's save this and then go back to our overall review scorecard. And underneath this text component, which calls getScoreText, let's pass in the stars component. And the score is going to be equal to score. And we'll save this. And there you can see we have 4.2 and it's showing 4 stars and then 1 star outline. So let's go to a different one and see what it looks like. So here it's 3.5 and there you can see that we have 3 full stars and then 0.5 of the 4th star. So with that done, let's go back to our review section. And here underneath our overall review scorecard, let's render out a flat list. It's going to be horizontal and we don't want to show the horizontal scroll indicator. We'll give it a style of flat list margin, which is just going to be a margin bottom of 50. And then right now we'll just render out an empty component. And that's only because we need to create the component that we're going to render. So let's go and create it. It's going to be called review card. For it, we will import view, style sheet, view style, text, stars, row, review, and theme. And then we'll create our component here. It's going to take in a review, which is of the review type and an optional style. And we'll return a view within this component. All right, now let's go and add this to our review section. So here, where we are rendering this fragment, let's render out a review card. And we will pass in review, which is just going to be item. So let's save that. And we'll go back to review card here. Now let's create our styles down below. And then we'll create a function called get formatted date, which will take in a date, which will be the created date of the review. And then we will add our styles to our view here. And for the first style, it's going to be container. And that is going to have a margin horizontal of 10, padding vertical of 15, border width of 1, border color of theme color dash gray, border radius of 5, width of 300, and then an overall padding of 10. And within that, we'll display a row, which will have a style of row, which is just justify content to space between, align items to center, and margin bottom of 10. And then within that, we will have our stars, passing in the review.stars. And then we will have some text for our formatted date. Underneath that, we will have some text for our review title. And the style for that is going to have a font weight of bold, margin bottom of 10, flex shrink of 1, and text transform to capitalize. And underneath the title, we will have our review body. So this is what it will look like. Except I think we should go to a property where there is a longer review. And for this case, it's going to be the first property. So down here, you can see that we have a very long review here. And next to these short reviews, it doesn't look the greatest. So let's create a component which allows the user to read more or read less depending upon the amount of text within each card. So for that, let's create a new component. It's going to be called text more or less. Now for this component, we are going to import useState, view, style sheet, and touchable opacity, and text. And then we are going to export the component. It's going to take in children and initial lines. Children is going to be a string, and initial lines is going to be a number. And we will return a view, and then we will create a new state called text shown and initialize it to false, and then length more and initialize that to false. Then we'll create a function called toggle number of lines, which sets the text shown to the opposite of the current state. And then we'll create a function called onTextLayout, which gets the lines from e.nativeEvent. And if lines exists is an array and is greater than 0, then we need to set length more to true if the length of the lines is greater than or equal to the initial number of lines. And within our view, we will display a text component. OnTextLayout, we'll call our OnTextLayout function. The number of lines is going to depend on text shown. So if text shown exists, then it will be undefined. Otherwise, we will display the initial lines or 1 if that doesn't exist. And the category is C1. And for the body of this text, it will be equal to children. Next, let's create our styles. And then if length more exists, then we need to render out a touchable opacity with the style of length more text container. And whenever this is pressed, we will toggle the number of lines. So length more text container has a padding vertical of 5 and z index of 30. And then within that, we will have a text component, and depending on whether text shown is true, it will read less, otherwise it will read more. So let's save this and then add it to our review card. Here where we're rendering text for review.body, we can say text more or less. And the initial lines is going to be equal to 10. Now down here for this long review, we can now hit read more to read more, or hit read less to show less. One quick change that I'm going to make here is I'm going to go back into text more or less, and here where it says or 1 for the initial number of lines, I'm going to get rid of that, and where we are taking in initial lines from our props, let's just add equals 1 here. So that is how you guys can create the review section. I hope that you found this video useful, and thank you for watching.